We begin with Saturday's governorship election in Anambra State in the southeast of the country. Reports from our correspondents spread across the entire length and breadth of the southeastern state say voting is gradually being rounded off in most polling units and that a few had actually started sorting and counting the votes. Anambra voters have waited anxiously for this moment to exercise their voting franchise and have another opportunity to shape their future politically and determine the direction of their state. According to the Independent National Electoral Commission, 16 candidates, including 2 females from 16 political parties, are contesting for the election to wrest power from the incumbent, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, who is also seeking re-election on the platform of the governing APGA. Some of the other major political parties and their candidates include the All Progressives Congress, Nicholas Ukachukwu, Labour Party's George Mogalu, African Democratic Congress, John Nwosu, Young Progressives Parties, Paul Chukwuma, African Action Alliance, Chioma Ifemeludike, Action Alliance, Jeff Nweke, among others. Now, at least 45,000 security personnel had been deployed to secure this election after political parties and their candidates on Monday had signed a peace accord, pledging to uphold non-violence and to respect the outcome of the poll. According to INEC, over 2.8 million registered voters are expected to participate in the exercise with about 63.9% active permanent voter cards. And at least 24,000 ad hoc staff of all categories were deployed across the 5,718 polling units across Anambra State. Well, for more updates on the governorship election, we have joining us from the field, Arise correspondent Andy Omano. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining us. Can you bring us up to speed? What exactly are we up to at the moment?
Okay, thank you so much, Somna, and good evening, viewers. The voting process has come to an end because if you look at your time, it's already past 5, and voting by INEC's calculation is supposed to end by 4 o'clock. That's about an hour ago, and so where I am doing this live crossing from now is in Nnewi South local government area, and this is Nnewi Shea, Ward 15 and 16. That is where this live cross is coming from. The voting has been tidied up and the vote casts have been counted, and the electoral officers are on their way back to the major collating center in their rack. From there, they will move all electoral materials, I mean the ballot paper casts, back to the INEC headquarters in Awka, the Enugu state capital. Of the 7 local government areas that we monitored in Anambra South specifically, there was no evident case of any insecurity as it were. Before now, you will remember that elections in states across the country, Anambra inclusive, are always riddled with so much insecurity, people fighting, ballot box snatching, and all that. But in areas we monitor today, Sumner, I must tell you that we did not experience anything of such. What we do experience is a pocket of votes buying, so to say, and we did highlighted this in our earlier intervention by way of live crossing, and that is what we experienced. But generally, it was a peaceful process in the 7 local government areas in Anambra South that we monitored, and the people seem to be speaking with one voice that they will want to elect somebody whose program, while having been sworn in office, will impact the Anambra people positively. That has always been the submission across 1, 2, 3, going to about 10, 15 people that we have the opportunity of interviewing and we had the opportunity of talking with off camera. And so that is the situation we have here. Right now as we speak, people are waiting for the winner of the election to be declared, probably later into the night or in the early hours of tomorrow, this Sunday.
All right, Andy, as we just try to wrap up this very quickly, talk to us about the issues of voter apathy, because they said that low voter turnout has made the counting much easier. I mean, some of the polling units have already concluded, people are already going back to their houses. So at the polling stations, people already know their results and all of that. And that this is as a result of, low turnout. So where you have 500 to 1,000 people in one polling unit, and where you have like 100 or maybe 150 turning out, or even lower than that, I mean, counting is done very easily.
Yes, thank you so much, Sumner. In the local government areas we monitored in Anambra South, there was no apparent voter apathy at all. I must report that. Impressively, I was telling my colleague, one of our colleagues here, that, you mean even at 1:30 to 2, the polling lines are still very long. People are still coming in to want to exercise their franchise. So that may have happened in other senatorial districts, so to say, but for the 5 to 6 local government areas that we've been running through since morning, we did not experience any of such that there was very remarkable level of voter apathy. If you watch my back very, very seriously, people are still here. And our colleagues from Lagos had asked me this same question, that what are those people still doing there after 5 o'clock, after 4 o'clock? The way I could answer that question was the fact that, don't forget that this state government declared Friday a work-free day. And that public holiday was declared in order for Anambra, both public and civil servants, to be able to return to their respective communities to participate. So it's possible that these people are meeting after a very long time, and so they are using the opportunity to talk to themselves, to compare notes, and discuss what had transpired in today's governorship election. For my area, there was no remarkable voter apathy. The people are waiting to see who will eventually be declared their new governor, either later into the hours of later today, or probably tomorrow, early hours of tomorrow morning, or in the morning tomorrow. Sumner.
All right, very briefly before I let you go, Andy, talk to us about the issues of vote buying, because we've seen the APC candidate, Nicholas Ukachukwu, alleging that it's been a bazaar and that people are just, buying and selling votes and all of that. I mean, what have you been seeing?
Yes, the APC governorship candidate, Nicholas Ukachukwu, when he leveled that allegation, we were actually at his polling unit. We took him live and he leveled that allegation. Not just vote buying, there is also the issue of underage voting, which we experienced somewhere around his polling booth. And when we raised an eyebrow, the explanation we were given is that the two young boy and girl who we identified as likely underage voters were not really underage. They were voting for the first time. They are 18 years old, and just that the boy is stunted in growth. That was the explanation we were given. Apart from Mr. Nicholas Ukachukwu of APC, who alleged vote buying, even his counterpart of ADC is also alleging vote buying. We were not there when he raised that allegation, but no sooner he left, we got to his polling booth in Nnewi North, where he alleged that some particular individuals and political parties have turned the election into a buying and selling affair. But he did not put a finger on any specific individual or any political party. But we look forward to him properly addressing this allegation he raised tomorrow, probably when the election is won and lost after the declaration of the results in Oka, the Anambra state capital, tomorrow or later today. Sumner.
All right, we must thank you so much, Andy Omano, standing out there for Arise News. We must thank you so much for joining us. And of course, stay safe with your colleagues there. And we will be keeping tabs with you. Well, we'll also have joining us from the Anambra state capital, Oka, an election observer with the European Union's support to democratic governance in Nigeria. That's the EU SDG, and Lanre Arogundade, who will be joining us to take a look at all of this that have happened. And while we are waiting for Lanre to join us, we We also have with us here in the studio a leading scholar and political activist, Professor Odenta Odenta. Professor Odenta is a distinguished fellow at the Abuja School of Political and Social and Political Thought, and he previously served as the Director of Conflict Management at the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution in the Presidency. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be with you some night.
Yeah, I mean, while we await Lanre Arugundade to join us, talk to us about what you've heard generally. I mean, I know you're from Enugu State, but I mean, this is all your region, right? The South
yeah, from Southside, of course.
Yeah, I mean, this is a state that is well known with political godfathers in the past, but this time around, we've heard all of this, and then, of course, you know, the election going smoothly and all of that. What's been your opinion?
I think stability, political stability occurred in Anambra, you know, somewhere within the tenure of Peter Obi, the former Labour candidate. His first, you know, victory was very controversial. He was even impeached, then restored back by the courts. The second term was a lot more settled. After that, the succession to Obiano, and then you know, down to Charles Soludo, Professor Soludo, who is the current governor, seeking for a second term. Yeah. Anambra is a complex environment and a dynamic state, you know, not only in the southeast, but in Nigeria as a whole, and very enlightened. But listening to your, you know, your correspondent on the ground, a few things, you know, jumped out for me. One, this issue of voter apathy, which of course is nuanced, that in some areas there could be massive apathy, some other areas there could be well, you know, voter representation. If indeed at the end of the day, and you do your calculations and do your analysis and scientifically, and you find out that the Anambra result yet again underwhelmed. It's been a historical problem, not just in Anambra and across the country, but Anambra seems to stand out. Sometimes 88,000, 85,000 people will elect a governor when they have a voter rolls of close to 2.something million. It's a structural problem. That means it's embedded in the structure of society as a whole. People are revolting in a way, because if you're disgusted with the political order, you are completely discontented with the political tradition before you, with the practices of the politicians. Why would you engage? Voting is an act of engagement. It's a spiritual act. Beyond the moral imperative that drives you to vote as a citizen, you must believe in something in order to participate in it.
It's a sort of compelling need within to contribute to nationalism and all of that.
That your votes repeatedly over cycles and cycles of election do not yield positive outcome, people are wanted to disengage from the art of, you know, in the exercising of civic franchise. That is a problem which we need to spend time to sort out. And then how do you turn that around? There are two ways you can do it. One is organic, one is mechanical. The mechanical is a true constitutional, you know, retextualizing. You know, if you retextualize the constitution, said for election to be valid, 40–50% of those who register the vote must vote. Some countries may have that on ground. Even some places, they say
if you have that in law, and then of course people don't still turn out,
then
does that mean that you have to go back to the election again?
There are some legal strictures, you know, attached to that provision. It could be that you're suspended from where you're working, you are denied some benefits, you are in a way need to pay the fine, you know, or penalty. Some people spend time in jail for a short while or do community work for not participating in a proper election. So if you find the least of all the things confronting you, like you break a traffic light and then you get a card and then you have to pay money, your car is impounded, you try not to break the traffic light. So if you're not going to vote and it's constitutional that you must vote, and there are risks to not voting, possibly you are not competent, even when you do not want to vote. That's why I say it is mechanical. It is not organic. You do not want to vote, but because you know there are problems if you don't vote. The other one is governance. Election is a process. It begins with the declaration of victory and defeat, swearing in, settling the matter in court, and then governance. Governance is where the content of democracy resides. So if you have this Anambra election result now announced tomorrow or there or whatever time they announce it, then somebody is sworn in down the line, other people petition, and at the end of the day, the Supreme Court, as in Nigeria, will resolve it. You begin governance. That is where the content of democracy begins to appear. Election is a form of democracy. You just go and cast your vote. It does not say there is food for you, there is job for you, there's education for you, there's health for you. You just have to cast your vote as a citizen. But when you don't take power as an elected governor or any other elected person, you begin to use that office you acquire to do what? To uplift the people's living standard, to improve their lifestyle, to empower them. When over time these things don't happen, People do not want to engage.
Yeah, and that's what people have been saying, that the believability level in Nigeria's electoral
if it is
process
low,
is at its lowest.
And that's why the issue of vote buying comes in. You know that for 4 years.
That's a form of compulsion. I mean, since you can't do that through the law, maybe you just give
because you have,
one or two things to come out.
2 or 3 years, you've been telling the people something, making promises, which you're not fulfilling. Then you know that the election is upon you and your team. And if you do not do something quickly, people will disengage. Your opponent can even win. You don't mobilize resources now to go and induce them to vote. That is even more atrocious morally than any other thing.
Well, do Nigerian politicians actually care?
But
I mean, as long as they are able to be...
But our duty here, using the instrumentality of the media platform, is to educate the people, to enlighten them. There are people out there who are listening to say, this is the correct thing to do. This is the way we do it. And politicians, somewhere, somehow down the line, they will begin to care when the people begin to riot with their ballot papers.
Well, some people have also said that politicians weaponize poverty for this sort of outcome.
They do, and sometimes it works for them, sometimes a double-edged sword. I do recall that in 2023, before our very eyes, me and you were on this studio severally, contesting ideas and so on, a certain P2B came to town without any apparatus, without any infrastructure, without any support base from the top to down. And what did he do? He swept through, because the anger of the people who rallied around him to disrupt the established political order was far more than the poverty of their condition, their poor state. So they were miserable people, neglected, abandoned, and rejected. But they said, no, we lift ourselves up and do it. So it is important that we appreciate that while we talk about the Anambra election, whose outcome is still up in the air.
Yeah. All right, just before I let you go, before we move on to other issues that we have, I just want to talk about this state. Anambra State has been known to have political godfathers. I mean, right from 1999 to 2002, we had Chinwoke Mbadinuju, and then Emeka Ofo, and then, of course, you have the Gige and Chris Uba and all of that, and it went ahead. But the political tempo in the state seemed to have reduced, and the godfathers going back. I mean, people would just want to ask, where are the likes of Chris Uba today and all of that and so on? What exactly has been responsible for the trend?
Everything has a season. It is never constant or still in life and reality and political processes and dynamics. In 1999 was a convulsive time. The democracy was very young. A few people, collected the power as it were and dictated the pace and tempo, not only at the national level, but at the subnational level. That's why you find godfathers putting in governors, putting in senators and so on. Sometimes they will rebel. Sometimes they will cut out to the godfathers. But when other cycles of election will come, you find the weakening of the grip of the godfathers. In the case of Anambra, which I know fairly well, as I said, with the measures of P2P and the unique style of governance, possibly the godfathers were unable to penetrate, within the anchors of governance. That means within the domain of that power. Yeah. And if he spent 8 years there, curing the state of this grip of godfathers, that he could come as an independent-minded individual and do it on his own terms and govern reasonably well, or as best as to his ability, and delivered on the goods. Therefore, there's no necessity for now to have a compelling picture of godfathers malreading the state and dictating the tempo of the politics. All right,
I'll just ask you to hang on there while we move on back to Oka. We are being joined now by Larry Arogundade, who's of the EUSDG. And talk to us, Larry, how is the election been going? What's been your observation so far?
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much. We have what we call a preliminary report from the Anambra election hub, which comprises Yaga Africa, Uka Center, International Press Center, Center for Media and Society, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, Electa, and TAF Africa. And we have a number of preliminary observations. Well, of course, counting will have been taking place across the polling units, but in terms of commencement of voting, we observed about 50% early arrival of ANEC officials' voting materials, which was an improvement over the last election. We also noticed the deployment of security personnel, although in a few polling units we didn't have security men presence, but that was also an area where we had some improvement, because logistics really matter a lot when it comes to election management. In some few places there were issues with with beavers. But in some of those places too, there were immediate efforts to rectify the issues. There were voters who the beavers could not recognize either facially or by their fingerprint. But these are just some minor instances across the states. We're interested in the old question of vote buying, and we observed that some of the party agents apparently had devised some discrete means of ensuring this. It was noticed it was 1 or 2 polling units that they were trying to use POS, and in some cases, party agents were taking names of those who had voted to reach out. Some of the observers, and I must say that we had in total 711 observers across the 21 states. Some of them actually witnessed physical vote buying. But then the EFCC was quite visible in this election. They went around early this morning. I was at Amupitan in Oka South, the community primary school there. There are 3 polling units there. The EFCC men came in branded red jackets. They went around, and the whole idea was that people believe that if they see them, they will be discouraged from vote buying. But that might not necessarily have been the case. This is where we are in terms of observe in the morning up to about mid when we had our.
All right, I'm afraid the audio is not so good from Larry, but at least we've been able to hear some of the few things that you said there. And of course, I do have that report that you're talking about, that you're making reference to. It's a group of CSOs that have been, monitoring the elections. And some of the things that they said, one of the stuff they talked about is critical incidents. And they said, number one, there was absence of result sheets. That's from EC8A in some localities. There was the issues of vote buying, the issues of underage voters, the issues of violation of ballot secrecy, and inconsistent application of the election day procedure. And 4 polling units recorded incidences of hate speech and verbal attacks against women. So talk to us very quickly about the issues of underage voting before we let you go. I mean, how rampant was that?
Well, I mean, that's okay. It was noticed in some areas, and it looks like a kind of interesting phenomenon. When we talk of underage voting in Nigeria, we usually don't look in the direction of the southern part of the country. It's something interesting and something unique that we saw as part of our observation. But then we were also interested in whether young people will troop out to vote, young voters. In some cases, it was like the elderly, the aged, that first came out. It was much later that we started seeing a number of young people stepping out to cast, their votes.
All right, Larry, talk to us about your early recommendation. You said that INEC should ensure strict compliance with the guidelines for the results collation. Specifically, party agents and accredited media and election observers should be granted access to the collation centers. Collation officers should verify the results of the hard copy result sheets and results transmitted with the beavers during results collation. What made you to come to that conclusion?
Well, we came to that conclusion because the problem with elections when it comes to allegations of manipulation or distortion of figures usually arise from the collation centers. This is where you have a lot of tension. So it's very, very important for the process to be transparent, in the sense that party agents should be allowed to be present. Although I must say that one of the disappointing features of this election is that in some polling units, only 1 or 2 or 3 political parties had their agents present, and that in itself is a problem, because agents are supposed to sign the results at the polling units. The electoral law empowers political party agents to demand even a recount of the votes if they felt that some things had gone wrong. So it's very, very important, and why we want INEC to do this is to ensure that nothing untoward happens, or that people do not have the perception that things will go wrong. we're even concerned about the presence of journalists. It has always been the case that some security personnel are not well informed that journalists are also accredited to be at the collation centers. They usually feel that it's the exclusive preserve of INEC officials. So this time around, we think it's important that if the collation process is made transparent, they follow the results from the polling units, we do not have distortions, crossing of figures and so on, people would then believe that whatever result is declared truly reflects the way the people voted.
All right. Most thank you so much, Larry Arugundade. He's an election observer, and he's with the EU support to democratic governance in Nigeria. That's EUSDGN. And of course, he's also a member of the Anambra election hub, where all the CSOs are coming together. Most thank you so much for what you do for the people of Nigeria. And of course, I'm very sure that your presence there has added a legitimacy to the elections, and we just hope that the results will be accepted generally once they are free, fair, and credible. Thank you so much. And just before we go on a short break, Prof, would you want to add anything to what he said?
It's very instructive, because for me, the beauty of democracy is the interface of critical stakeholders. If you don't have a robust election monitoring, platform like this, and even the hub you're talking about, the election will lose some of its meaning or essence. So we need the work of, and then of course EU is invested in the Nigerian electoral process because of the fund, the basket of fund they try to put across to INEC and so on there. So Landry and his team, very incredible work they're doing, enlightening the people and then deepening our democracy.
All right, Prof. Udenta, I'll just ask you to stay right here while we go on a short break. Now, when we come back, we will be discussing about the lingering crisis in Nigeria's main opposition party, the PDP. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching This Week, and I'm Somna Sambo. Next is the lingering leadership crisis rocking Nigeria's main opposition, the People's Democratic Party. After factional leaders emerged within its fold, now in the midst of the storm, the Forum of State Chairman of the party has now thrown its weight and loyalty to the factional national chairman of the party, Umar Damagum. The chairman reaffirmed their support in a statement at a meeting on Thursday, dismissing the faction led by Abdurrahman Mohammed as illegitimate. Now, the forum comprising 29 state chairmen said Damagum remains the only recognized national chairman of the party under the PDP constitution and that there is no faction. Meanwhile, the other faction backed by Nyesom Wike has dissolved the Adolphus Wabara-led Board of Trustees, and as a BOT, and appointed Senator Mao Habon as his own BOT chairman. The dramatic step was taken on Friday after what they claim is a profound, quote, loss of credibility and moral authority by the Wabara-led BOT. It was immediately followed by the inauguration of a new hand-picked BOT, a clear and aggressive escalation in the ongoing battle for the soul of the party. Well, for more on the leadership crisis in Nigeria's main opposition, we still have with us in the studio here Professor Udenta. Thank you so much, Professor Udenta. And well, you are someone who has the umbilical cord of PDP right in your hands.
Not just the PDP, not just the PDP, this Fourth Republic.
Parties. Yeah, I mean, this Fourth Republic. I mean, and people want to ask, is this the end of the PDP?
Now, I'm happy as we are speaking. Whether you like it or not, I'm sure your viewers could see you struggling to contain some sense of laughter around your lips.
Yeah, man. I mean, who would have imagined that PDP would be thrown into all of this?
On the more serious note, let me put it this way. And this is very theoretical in a way. Factions are not even bad in parties. When we hear factions, people run that this existential crisis for parties, that the party is almost on the way out, is almost dying. That's not true. You see, parties have tendencies. That means people who dig in because they represent contrasting viewpoints or principles or moral perspectives. Those tendencies could become fault lines that deepen and lead to fissures, and the party could just crack up. APOGA just came together a few months ago. For 14, 15 or more years, you can fact check me.
No, I mean, very well. I followed that story way to the Supreme Court.
But APOGA was producing governors, producing senators, producing reps, producing state assemblymen, and producing local government chairmen and councillors with ease. when they had multiple factions. There were over 5-7 years Supreme Court interventions and decisions and so on there to INEC, back again to INEC, until one of those guys gave up just a few months ago. Soludo was produced as a factional governor. What is a governor? Obiano is something, maybe part of even P2B's own end tenure was even a factional crisis. It's not within a party. Party shouldn't get to that end, but that's not a big issue. PDP has a constituted body, electoral, that is a representative, legitimate infrastructure. These are the organs: the NEC, the NWC, the BOT, the Governors Forum, then the NAS caucus. These are critical organs of the party.
Well, the BOT and the NWC seems split at the moment.
So that, these are the organs. When you go to INEC, you ask INEC for its role, voter role, to say, this is PDP. Who is the chairman of the party in INEC? That's the key to a faction. That's why we could produce governors. So if you sit with me and 7 others in the cozy room somewhere, after maybe a bottle of Fanta or something stronger than Fanta, and say we have sacked somebody.
Or even in the FCT ministers
I don't know who I say you have sacked somebody and expect the nation to take you serious. You have not sacked the person at INEC where it matters, because that's a regulator. The regulator asked the party to come to me with your problems, and they brought the national secretary then, Senator Anyanwu, along. And they finished the meeting and harmonized their ranks and had a series of NEC meetings, NWC meetings, BOT meetings, Governors Forum meetings, and conclusively delivered all the records, the letters, the documents, every specification that INEC wanted back to INEC for the convention. So at the level of the political apparatus called PDP, at the level of INEC, everything for the convention is said and delivered. But
one of those who signed that,
I'm coming.
I mean, it's now in the other faction.
I'm coming to that. Now there's a court order, which is beyond my purview. The lawyers will engage with that. Yeah. If you sign a document on today is 8, if I'm not mistaken, and on the 12th, something else happened, it does not obviate the fact that you did something on the 8th. Whether you are in or out there, it is done, already delivered, sealed by INEC. That's why INEC will determine. Did you sign this thing? Were you part of this process? Everything other than that is afterthought. If you have Damagun, and don't forget, one signature as the head of the party is a chairman. The second in line will be the deputies, but of course, in terms of effective administrative control, is the secretary of the party, then the rest of them. The president of this country can summon political parties. If he's in doubt, he asks INEC. I have a problem with PDP and SDP and so on. Who is the chairman of the party? INEC will tell you it is Damagun. It's not me or you saying it. It is there in the record. To topple that name there will require more than either a beer parlor kind of congregation.
No, I mean, we saw that happening in Labour Party with Julius Amure and all of
PDP, beyond even the PDP. What we should bother about is the heart of our democracy. In 1998, before Abacha died, parties were emerging. I was part of the PPP with Moses Adasu, now blessed memory, and then Zife, blessed memory, as chairman and secretary. We had either PDM and so on and so forth. Abacha saw, because of the militaristic, despotic nature of his governance model, he will not deliver whatever he wanted with these parties around. He shoved them away and brought on board what we now called, from Uncle Bodige, to all of us in the democratic struggle, the 5 leprous fingers. We do not want Labour Party to bear a leprous finger. We want Nenadi Usman, as proclaimed by the former INEC chairman and his team, as the legitimate rep of Labour Party. We don't want a leprous PDP. We don't want a leprous SDP. INEC, when he pronounced on ADC and said, David Mark is the chairman of ADC. Damagun is the chairman of PDP. The next one, chairman of Labour Party. Much more in contention because of this consortium nature will be SDP. If these parties now become leprous, because a few individuals will sit somewhere in the cozy rooms there and pronounce the parties factionalized, it is incumbent upon INEC to proceed with caution, to tread softly and carefully, because people are watching. The new INEC chairman's failure will begin with Anambra election. It's been baked in before he came on board. I will be the one to say, I will defend him and say, he didn't really participate more, just do the technical things there. It will begin with how he manages the so-called PDP crisis, the so-called crisis in Labour Party, the crisis in SDP, crisis in, possibly in ADC, engineered, induced, and manipulated by outside.
So are you, I mean, with this now, I'm tempted to ask, could that, hand or, a person or individual that is manipulating these political parties be in the stature of an Abacha?
Because they don't even know. It can't be
and
the same.
Could it be President Bola Tinubu?
It can't be the same because one, the circumstances are different, uniquely different.
Because I mean, from what you've said, I'm trying to deduce that, I mean, it looks like someone is manipulating all this party for an eventual adoption, just like Abacha was adopted by all these parties.
Your duty is to lay the question as you have laid them brilliantly as always. Mine is to answer them. The environments are not the same. Bola Tinubu was elected on the basis of a much maligned 1999 constitution. It is a constitutional document under a rule of law format. You have a standing legislature, separate judiciary or independent judiciary, and powerful, very, very robust civil society, and then free media. Under Abacha, these apparatuses were not in place. There was no constitution, there was no legislation, the courts were silenced, civil space was shrunk, and then, of course, parties never existed, especially the one he wanted. I must make that distinction. But the character of Abacha there, we do not want to be the character of the current regime. We do not want, it's a plea. Because the consequences for the health of democracy, not PDP, not ADC, not SDP, the overall health of democracy will be imperiled if INEC is induced or coerced, or the courts, to take this precipitate step to engineer inorganic mechanical conflict in parties by people sitting wherever that suits them, proclaiming end of NWC, of a BOT and so on there. Yeah, and incredibly, people ordinarily you respect, you put your hands on your jaw and say, former senators, especially from ethnic stock I represent, saying, you're part of this madness. Not because it's PDP. As I said, look at Labour. Mahmoud and his team said, from all the records and from Supreme Court decisions, it is Nana Osman. And they were invited and taken on board as legitimate rep of that party. Then you have an acting chairman slotted in before Amupitan took over to say, oh no, it's Abure who got a cut order somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I challenged that when we had a meeting.
That is how you start unraveling democracy. That's how you have unraveling democracy. And the consequences is there. You know why it is there? We do not want anybody to come gun blazing in Nigeria. As a patriot, I would not want that. Yeah. We don't want anybody imposing his will on our territory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
coming. We're a sovereign nation. But do not play into the hands of those who do not wish us well. You know why? Because this president and his team are distracted. I said on this stage and several studios, I said, he panicked with his team because of the specter of Jonathan coming or becoming PDP as a behemoth used to be. We must cut this thing down, cut them down to size. If possible, ensure that like Abacha's own parties in 1998, the 5 or 4 parties will be leprous parties. Now, that's, you know the implication of that? You are distracted from governance, distracted from pursuing the terrorists, distracted from chasing the bandits. That is why you leave yourself a sucker punch from outside.
I mean, that's the thing that a whole lot of people have been saying, that this government has been very huge on politics and very low on governance. And that's been distracting the president, despite the fact that the president has always denied that. And let's come back to the issue at hand. Do you believe that the PDP convention will be holding in a week's time?
Let me put it this way. I or you, when you're the man, meets a woman and then she conceives and then start antenatal. And then somewhere we hear the good news. The baby has been delivered. And then you say, wow, bouncing baby boy, bouncing baby girl. That's what they say, no, abort that baby. You can't abort a baby that has been delivered.
So you think that the PDP convention is
already
delivered?
Because the legal...
Because you have two court judgments from a court of coordinate jurisdiction.
The legal environment is not a frozen environment. That's the beauty of law, as an ass. You get injunction, I get injunction. You get a count, I get a count. That's the legal process.
It depends on which one
There's nothing wrong with that. Ab initio, in principle, if you're lucky, you get a higher one. If you're lucky, you get another stay somewhere. Yeah. You do your convention, which has already been politically and infrastructurally guaranteed by INEC. All the data are there, everything is there. By the party. If you do that and you're on sure legal ground, if you take a few more months down the line, sure, to exhaust the legal challenges like Apuga, and then you keep on moving on. Do your primary election, do your nomination process, campaign. If you're strong enough, win even the presidency. At the end of the day, the truth will appear. What people want is to suppress the truth. It's not that they want a counter-convention. The other side. They don't want a counter-convention. They want the difference in the convention. They don't want a convention because they don't want the party to survive. Same with SDP.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a very strong allegation. But let's talk about the Wike group. I mean, don't you think that they have a right to these grievances? Because they are saying that not all the state congresses were not held in some of the states. There were like about 15 that they are. I don't think that's. And then the thing is that that the procedures, the guidelines in the PDP constitution are also not being followed, and that they seem to have been an imposition, and that the governors are wielding so much powers that they printed only one form for each of the positions so that they will impose their own candidates. And Wike says that he's not been even consulted, though he may not be a governor, but as a minister in the government, shouldn't he be consulted? Though he's in
the question in the PDP. Is this: has anybody told you that he belongs to an individual faction? Anybody?
Well, I mean, we've been seeing it.
No,
and
I'm
we've
saying,
seen that
but my question is, as a man or a woman who's an adult, has anybody on any side said, so person is the leader of my faction? That means I owe loyalty to him. I subscribe to his will, his understanding of party politics. I do not think so. Parties, I said, may have cracks once in a while, have factions. So let us desist from ascribing to individuals leadership of factions. The other side has no individual as the leader of the faction. The chairman of the party of PDP is Ambassador Damagu.
Well, I'm not sure you've been reading because they've said that Abdurrahman Mohammed is the chairman of their own faction.
As I said, it is good. He can even write to INEC.
Well, he's already done that.
Another person can even emerge again and say, he's not Abdurrahman. The key thing is like Apuga. Or any other party, even Alliance for Democracy in 1999, we had faction. We are producing candidates. The key thing is that I took AD to INEC in 2000, like PDP went to INEC 2025. It is crucial because as regulator, we respect them.
Yeah.
The moment you go there and ask who is the chairman of the party, they tell you Damagu, he's the overall leader. Every other person is subordinated to him, including the secretary of the party. I was the secretary of the party, subordinated to the national chairman. A chairman of a party is more stronger than a governor or a president in many respects. Studying the constitution very well.
In a well-run party.
However you run it, because the power is not his own.
Yeah.
The power is with INEC. So long as INEC says, so person is the leader of the faction of Apuga that I represent. Where is the candidate for election? Soludo, he is the candidate. Repeatedly. Senators, reps. So Abdurrahman can have fun in the media with you guys, with his team. They could drink some little thing, a big thing, and say they've removed somebody. It is permitted in law. I mean, as the Nigerian Constitution said, you can gather, even in nuisance, okay, or political miscreancy, but they can do that. But then for INEC, as the regulator, who invited INEC to come? Who did INEC investigate and look into the affair and said, we are sending people to repeated meetings of NWC, of the NEC, or BOT and so on there. Right. That is a key thing, not only for PDP. For me, my conversation about this is not PDP centered.
Yeah,
it's
and that's where I'm coming to. And that's where I'm coming to, because the SDP, the Social Democratic Party, is also in crisis now. There are two persons who have emerged as chairman. The one that was recognized by INEC before, and then another person. And then, of course, ADC too. You had that crisis where people were sponsored. We've talked about labor and all of that.
And I told you why it is going on.
And these are the big political parties.
No, these are not coincidences. They're not coincidences.
And that's why I'm asking you.
They are not coincidences. They are clear. The president of the country, I've said this severally, it's my right as a citizen to express my opinion within the bounds of law, his government and APC. The strategy is that because he has not performed, the government has not performed, and they cannot go for a free and fair election with people standing tall, dismantle these apparatuses by implanting prisoners within their ranks. So within the PDP, implant prisoners. You check who a prisoner is from the Second World War. It's your duty as a journalist. Next time you get a guest, ask who is a prisoner in PDP, in SDP, in Labour Party, in ADC, in order to do what? Diminish the powerful moral ingredient of multi-party democracy. Limit the ability of the party to stand. I said it in these studios, many other studios. He will lose the election in 2027 on the basis of his record. Because 27 is not going to be fresh mandate. What I have accomplished 4 years back in poverty reduction, in eliminating terrorism, in not getting trouble on your back because we are distracted, and so many other issues we can keep talking about here. But because you have not done so, what is the easiest route Go for the governors of PDP and others who are chicken-hearted and cowardly, who don't have what I call the lineage of power or ancestry of power, like my governor of Enugu State, Peter Mba. We don't know where they're from in terms of the lineage of power. Get them and whisper to their ears. Either you put them through patronage or through intimidation. If you harass PDP from pillar to post and dismantle it, do so with other parties there, he can literally re-enter in 2027. Okay. But the people will not accept it.
Very, very instructive there. I mean, let's talk about the issues of the president making statements about the opposition. And he's saying that he's not responsible for all of this, contrary to what you have said. And I want to say that during the joint sitting of the National Assembly, he actually had this to say, that it is indeed a pleasure to witness you, that's the opposition, in such a disarray. And that the APC will continue to harvest from the inability of the opposition to put their house in order. I mean, do you expect the APC and President Tinubu to help put the opposition in order?
Let me put
very
it
quickly as we try to wrap up.
Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody doing something that is morally reprehensible, admitting to be doing so. They will, with clear face and looking into and say, "It is not me."
So they will couch it
remember
in other words.
Remember that beautiful music, that song, I think is like a reggae, pop reggae song. He said, "It is not me."
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Yeah.
So even when you're caught on the couch, in the bathroom, it was not me. So it wasn't the president, it wasn't the APC, it wasn't anybody. It's just the parties themselves imploding because they love to implode. The parties are tired of living. I can bet you for free, somebody want to convert genuine dynamic parties into leprous parties, into leprous hands. It will not work. What anybody denies doesn't deny it. People know what is going on. Politicians, I said here, are ghosts. You cannot pin them down. There will be one aperture, one opportunity they have somewhere. We don't know where that is going to come from. Even if you use a heavy-handedness, even if you intimidate INEC, and that's a warning, as I said, Amupitan, proceed with caution. This matter of PDP will imperil not only his office and his moral contours or imperative, it will imperil our democracy. People, listen.
All right, is it only about PDP? I mean, because we have ADC here. All of a sudden, they've all gone quiet.
As I said at the beginning,
what's going on?
At the beginning, as I'm saying, not only PDP. When it comes to ADC, Amupitan and your team, proceed with caution. Labour Party, proceed with caution. The boys are playing and the girls are playing with fire. We founded this republic. I paid my dues. I suffered 6 detentions. I don't need anybody to give me a crown or a credit or an honor. I know what I did, what I contributed, what I paid, the price I paid for. We're not going to keep still and silent and allow this kind of shenanigans to persist in the system.
All right. Very quickly before I let you go, the president says he has an open policy for defectors. As long as they are willing as governors to want to come to his party, and with some people saying that they want to come to the center to enjoy the federal resources and support. A whole lot of people also asking. I mean, governors who are receiving the allocations and all of that, why do they need to be in the governing party?
Let me put it this way. As I said,
can they govern without being the governing party?
I said nobody doing anything reprehensible. It wasn't me. They can come on their own. Oh my God, they are coming. We welcome you. That is one. You are going to the center that is performing, and they look at the states controlled by the state. I'm coming. You're Enugu governor. They say you're doing well. You look at KB and Sokoto, they're doing better than you. It is what the states of ABC are doing that we now say, I should go to the center. If the states are shabby in a shambolic manner, completely, ungoverned, completely dispirited, where are you going there for? It said that you're persuaded or you're intimidated to run. And as cowardly people, some of these people are.
And do you think that there are some things being thrown at them, especially this governor? We heard the Taraba State governor is also on his way.
I've been reading somewhere, but when it comes to very powerful studio like this, you be careful what you say.
Yeah,
I saw this outline, is it from Sarah Reporters?
Yeah,
250 billion given to governors, 1 billion given to senators, 500 million given to reps. Maybe it is true, maybe it's another pepper soup kind of some allegations, as I said. But it's out there in the public domain.
All right, what if the PDP convention doesn't hold next weekend? What happens?
It will hold. It's already done. The pregnancy already delivered.
All right.
The child is born already. It is actually whether that child will be allowed to grow into an adult being.
We all wait to see how it all plays out. But of course, no one will save the PDP other than itself.
To save they've done what the party will save.
Politicians who are there have to work for
they are working this far. They will do it.
And last word for the person who has been announced, the BOT chairman, from the Nyesom Wike angle.
No, the point I'm making is that if you gather 3 or 4 or 5, either with or without spirit, and then you take certain decisions, we laugh about it. It's a very mockery. I mean, call it, in tragic comedy. You know what is called a farce? It's farcical. When I saw the picture, the video, I said, it can't be people I know from 10, 15 years ago. the level of degeneration, because we're talking of intellectual, moral degeneration, is very, very harrowing.
All right,
it's a pity.
And the person I was making reference to is Senator Mao Habuwan, who was actually named the new beauty chairman of the Wike-led faction, Samuel Nyao faction, or the Abdurrahman Mohammed faction, and we all hope to see how it all pans out. But we must thank you so much for your immense wealth of knowledge of these issues, and then of course how you try to help safeguard the nation's fourth republic. And I can tell you that politicians will never give up, and that's why we always say that the media will always be there in check of the system. But thank you so much, Professor Udenta. Udenta is a professor that is, it's not new having you here, but you're always with us anytime we call upon you. He's a distinguished fellow at the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. And of course, he previously served as the Director of Conflict Management at the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution in the presidency.
And don't forget the founding National Secretary
of the Alliance for Democracy.
Very important.
Thank you so much. Well, that's the much we can take on this edition of This Week while we await the results of the Anambra State election across the country. We'll ask for everyone to be peaceful right there in that southeast state. Thanks to our production team here in Abuja, Lagos, and London. Do join us same time next week for another exciting edition. I'm Somna Sambo.